Syntax Data is a financial data and technology company. We really have three different product lines. One is really around our company data. We look at companies down to the product line level with respect to how much revenue they get from that product line and the percentage revenue they get from that product line. That data allows us to power two separate business lines. One is our custom index development product line, where we build indices for ETFs, SMAs, institutional partners. And then we've used kind of that skill set to build a platform called Syntax Direct that allows RAAs and RIA partners to build their own custom indices, allowing individual RAAs to answer a series of questions and get the full power of an index, i.e. the constituents, the backtests, the rulebook, fact sheets, etc., that allow them to customize them to their individual clients.
What kind of indices are the RIAs building?
A lot of those indices are actually long-term core-based strategies where they'll start with, a benchmark like the large cap, do some customization, maybe factor tilts, maybe thematic tilts, do some exclusions. Another place that they'll spend a lot of time are thematics, right? So if they wanted to have exposure to AI, if they wanted to have exposure to digital health, they can use our platform to build indices around those themes where they're getting a full back test that's leveraging that underlying product line level classification data to build it.
How are the ETF listers using it?
With the ETFs and the institutional investors, they're not using the direct platform, at least not yet. We engage the ETF builders through our custom platform. So they'll come to us and they'll say, here's the type of index strategy that we're trying to build. We'll build that strategy for them, still leveraging that underlying data, but we'll do that in a more bespoke way, right? So, if they have slightly different takes on what the thematic exposures need to be, if they want to do things like, a target vol overlay, things like that, things that are a little more mathematically nuanced, we're able to build those strategies and build indices for them in that space.
What stage is your company in its development?
We've been active for about 15 years. The first 10 years were really around developing that classification system and developing our underlying data set. About 3 or 4 years ago, we brought on a new CEO who came in from S Network Global Indices. So that's really where a lot of our index knowledge and index talents come from. That team came over and has really kind of powered our custom index business and then now powered the platform. In terms of where we're going, we're going to continue to develop that custom index business, but we're also, starting to introduce new asset classes. So we started in equities, but introducing asset classes like fixed income. This is where the optionality starts coming in as well, but really trying to bring those types of indices first to the institutional investor, but eventually bringing it to, RAAs and even, you can imagine, bringing it to the retail investor over time.
How does someone engage in this with their RIA?
If you as an investor wanted to engage in this, you would have to go through an RIA. We sell directly to RIAs, but we also have integrations with platforms that RIAs use. At the beginning of the year, we launched with Advison, and that gave us access to a number of RIAs, and those RIAs are coming on the platform and building indices on our platform right now and making those indices available to their clients as investment strategies. As a retail investor, that's going to be your first point of contact.
Where are you getting the data from?
Primarily, we're doing that through the 10Ks and through reporting documents. One of the things that the balance that we try to keep is we want that data to be granular, but we also want to have full provenance for it. So any classification that we have, we actually have a link to the underlying reporting document from which we got that. The other thing that we've done that I think is a real innovation is that we've separated classification from categorization. A lot of times when people think about company classification, they think about sectors. What we try to do is for every classification that we're doing, we are describing that company in a standardized way around what their underlying business is, who their customers are, how their product gets used, the context in which that product is used by the customer, and even who their down-market customers are. So we're really building out a supply chain picture for every one of these business lines. And what that allows us to do is not only group them in sectors, but also dynamically group them along thematics, or dynamically group them along, what are the industries that are susceptible to inflation or do well in inflationary periods. And so that separation of classification and categorization gives us a lot of flexibility and allows us to build new tranches and new groups dynamically without having to reclassify our historic classifications. And so we have point-in-time classification that allows us, for large cap universes, for developed markets, emerging markets, and we can slice and dice those pretty dynamically in order to build new products very quickly.
How reliable is the data?
There's certainly a little bit of a reliability question. Our argument is that as long as we're reflecting what's in the 10K and we're standardizing what's there, it gives us a starting point. And so there may be cases where you have a classification and that classification gives you that first pass. And then you're going to want people to go in and use that first pass in order to refine that list. But still, it speeds up that process tremendously, right? And so instead of saying that for any new idea that you have, what you need to do is get a team of analysts to start researching companies to find out what fits in, we're able to programmatically give that first pass. And then you can then further refine that either by looking at secondary data, additional sources in order to refine that list. But now instead of looking at thousands of companies, you're looking at tens or hundreds of companies, which is, an order of magnitude speed up in your process.